Hey there, everyone. Grab a cup of coffee and pull up a chair. You know, I was driving past the old mall the other day, or what's left of it, and it got me thinking. If you're around my age, maybe a little younger or a little older, you remember when going shopping wasn't something you did with a thumb and a smartphone. It was an event. It was a ritual. It was the way we marked the seasons of our lives. Today, we're going to take a little trip down memory lane, past the brass doors, up the wooden escalators, and straight to the lunch counter. We're talking about the rise and the quiet disappearance of the American department store. If you remember the smell of roasted nuts and new tires, or the sound of a pneumatic tube whooshing through the wall, this one is for you. This is how things were, and how we remember them. Let's start back in the 50s and 60s. Do you remember when going downtown meant actually getting dressed? My grandmother wouldn't dream of stepping onto the streetcar without her hat and gloves. It was what some people called the cosplay of socialites. You didn't just run errands, you participated in the life of the city. Every city had its big name. If you were in Chicago, it was Marshall Field's on State Street. In Detroit, you headed to Hudson's on Woodward Avenue, which, at 25 stories, was once the tallest department store in the world. In Pittsburgh, everyone met under the clock at Kaufmann's. These weren't just stores, they were the soul of the city. When you walked through those heavy glass and brass doors, you were hit by that specific department store smell. It was an impossible mix: expensive French perfume from the cosmetics counter, the savory scent of buttered popcorn or roasted cashews from the nut kiosk, and, weirdly enough, the sharp smell of new rubber from the tire center downstairs. How about the technology? Do you remember the pneumatic tubes? You'd watch the clerk put your money in a little brass canister, shove it into a hole in the wall, and whoosh! It was gone to some mysterious central office, only to come back a minute later with your change. Remember those wooden escalators at Macy's or Fields? They had a rhythmic clack-clack sound that you could feel in your feet as the wooden treads disappeared into the floor. It felt like the future, even if it was made of oak. Now, something we don't often think about. For women at the turn of the century and well into the mid-1900s, these stores were a declaration of independence. Before department stores, a woman usually couldn't just wander around town alone without causing a scandal. But the department store was a safe haven. It was a place where a woman could convene with her friends, shop without a male chaperone or guardian, and simply be out in public on her own terms. Now, moving on, you can't talk about this era without talking about the Woolworths lunch counter. Woolworth was the king of the 5 and dime. It's where you went for everything from a spool of thread to a pet goldfish in a little cardboard box with a wire handle. But the heart of it was the counter. You'd find a red upholstered swivel stool. Always gave it a little spin first, right? And rest your arms on that cool chrome trim. For a few nickels, you had a front row seat to the community. You'd see a businessman in a suit, sitting right next to a mom with 3 kids and a pile of shopping bags. The air was thick with the smell of grilled cheese, patty melts, and coffee being poured from those glass carafes. If you were at Marshall Field's, maybe you were lucky enough to have Mrs. Herring's chicken pot pie in the walnut room, sitting under a Christmas tree that felt like it reached the sky. It was the original social network. You weren't just a customer. You were a neighbor. There was a sense of permanence there. You felt like those red stools and those white uniformed waitresses would be there forever. In the 70s, the experience started coming home to us through the mail slot. Who among us didn't spend hours with the Sears, Roebuck and Company catalog? We called it the Great Price Maker. But to us kids, it was the Wish Book. When that 500-page book arrived, the world stopped. You'd sit on the living room floor and dog-ear the pages, circling the Star Wars figures, the Barbie dream house, or those Toughskins jeans that your mom insisted would never wear out. There was a level of trust back then. If it was a Kenmore appliance or a Craftsman tool, you knew it was built to last a lifetime. You could even order a whole prefabricated house from the Sears catalog once upon a time. And because we didn't all have a pocket full of credit cards, we had the layaway plan. You'd go to that quiet counter at the back of the store, put $5 or $10 down on a winter coat or a bike for Christmas, and pay it off a little every week. It taught us patience. It made the day you finally brought that item home feel like a real victory. It wasn't about instant gratification. It was about the anticipation. By the time the late 70s and 80s rolled around, things started moving a bit faster. We started seeing the rise of the discount giants like Kmart. And if you shopped at Kmart, you knew the adrenaline rush of the Blue Light Special. You'd be wandering the aisles, maybe looking at some records, when the PA system would crackle. Attention Kmart shoppers. Suddenly, a blue police light would start spinning on a pole in the middle of a random aisle. For 15 minutes, something, maybe towels, maybe batteries, was at a rock-bottom price. It turned shopping into a game. You'd see people literally running toward the light. It was a shared physical moment. You'd find yourself standing around a bin of discounted goods with a dozen strangers, all of you laughing and grabbing what you could. It was a bit chaotic, sure, but it was alive. It's a far cry from clicking a Buy Now button in the middle of the night by yourself, isn't it? Then came the mall era. The center of gravity shifted from downtown to these climate-controlled labyrinths in the suburbs. The big department stores became anchors that held down the ends of the mall. JCPenney, Montgomery Ward, or Monkey Ward, as some of us called it, Sears. The mall was where we went to spend time, not just money. You'd walk past the fountains and just wander. Remember that specific smell of chlorinated water and pennies? Teens would hang out at the National Record Mart, smelling the vinyl and flipping through album covers, or get lost in the cathedral of childhood that was Toys R Us. You'd go to service merchandise, which felt like a sci-fi movie. You didn't carry your items. You wrote a code on a slip of paper, and then you waited by a conveyor belt. The suspense of watching your toaster or your new camera slide out from behind the wall. Man, that was something. Or maybe you'd stop at Radio Shack to see the first personal computers like the TRS-80. We were watching the future arrive, one aisle at a time. What I miss most, though, are the stores that belonged only to us. Every region had its giant. In the Northeast, you had Ames or Caldor with its bright rainbow logo. In the West, it was Mervyn's. Who could forget the open lady in the commercials? In the South, you had Rich's or Del Champs. These stores felt like part of the local family. They sponsored the Thanksgiving parades. They decorated their windows with fake snow made of salt and ground glass. They had mascots like Marshall Field's Uncle Mistletoe or Montgomery Ward's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. But then the mergers started. Slowly, the names we grew up with began to disappear. Gimbel's closed in 1987. Woolworths shut its variety stores in 1997. One by one, our local landmarks were rebranded. You'd walk into your favorite store and find the signs had been replaced by a national chain. It felt like the city was losing a bit of its soul. We traded that quirky, regional variety for a standardized sameness. A store in Seattle started looking exactly like a store in Atlanta. Today, many of those grand buildings are gone. Some were imploded, like the old Hudsons in Detroit. Others are ghosts of the past, sitting empty in dying malls. We're told that things are better now, and sure, I love getting a package on my porch in 2 days as much as anyone. But when we lost the regional department store, we lost more than just a place to buy socks. We lost a category of shopping. We lost the deals, those unique finds like the rugs made of carpet remnants you'd find at Rose's, or the oddities at a Zayre clearance rack. Now, we mostly just have stuff, mass-produced, consistent, and a little bit hollow. We lost the in-house tailors who would hem your pants while you waited. We lost the full-service shoe departments where a clerk would actually measure your foot with a metal Brannock device. We lost the excuse to get dressed up and meet a friend under the clock. You know, places disappear faster than the habits they create. Even now, when I'm in a big box store, I catch myself listening for that coded chime over the PA system, or looking for a lunch counter where I can get a slice of pie and a cup of coffee. The department store was a stage where we played out our lives. It was where we bought our first school uniforms, our first suits, and our first Christmas gifts for our parents. They were the anchors of our communities and our memories. So, next time you're near an old downtown or a quiet mall, take a look at the bricks. You might still see the faint trace of a name like McCrory's or Sears etched into the stone. It's a reminder of a time when the world was a little more tactile, a little more social, and a whole lot slower. Thanks for taking this walk with me today. What was the store you missed the most? Was it the popcorn at Hill's, the chicken pot pie at Marshall Fields, or just that Saturday morning feeling of wandering the aisles with your folks? Drop a comment below. I'd love to read your stories. See you later and keep those memories close. After all, that's how things were